Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back, folks. You are tuned into our 2-hour special on the John F. Kennedy assassination, which we are hosting in anticipation of the disclosure of classified documents ordered by President Donald Trump, consistent with a law passed in the 90s requiring the president to either release all of the documents. We don't have time to talk about the documents pertaining to the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy of New York or Dr. Martin Luther King, but next week we are going to delve into those. Joining us now is J. Gary Shaw, someone I respect as one of the leading experts on this case. Gary Shaw met Penn Jones, Jr., one of the earliest critics of the Warren Commission and researchers looking into the Kennedy assassination, after reading Penn's book, Forgive My Brief. Then Gary Shaw bought the 2 complete sets of the 26 volumes of the Warren Commission report, and he was hooked. We're very pleased to have him with us today. Gary Shaw has crisscrossed the country prior to the internet, interviewing a number of individuals who were directly connected to the case, such as Dallas Deputy Sheriff Roger Craig, Richard Carr, Gary Hemming, Laura Hall, and just to name a few. We'll talk about that, but Gary Shaw, welcome. And then in a few minutes, we're going to bring in Brian Edwards for what I think will be one of the first public dissertations of the story of Roscoe White, which may have some bearing on what we're about to learn from these upcoming disclosures. Gary, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us on the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, Roger. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So this is obviously a murder mystery that continues to intrigue the American people. The folks at the National Enquirer once told me that when they had lean financial times, all they had to do was put a JFK assassination-oriented story on the cover, and they would sell 600,000 more copies that particular week than on other weeks. It is one in which, despite the very best efforts of the mainstream media, particularly those at CNN, to continue to push the ridiculous Warren Commission conclusions that Lee Harvey Oswald, a lone nut, a Russian communist, acting alone, killed John F. Kennedy with 3 bullet shot wounds, all shot from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building and all shot from behind. But the American people, if you look at the Gallup poll, they're not buying it. They haven't bought it. It intrigues me that you have interviewed Deputy Sheriff Roger Craig and Richard Carr, as well as Gary Hemming. So let's talk about that quickly in terms of their role and what happened to them in this particular historical event.
Well, just the 2 of them, Craig and Carr, were witnesses to the assassination. And, of course, Roger Craig saw a man who looked exactly like Lee Harvey Oswald, leaving in a manner that was contrary to what the Warren Commission tried to sell us. And Carr basically saw some of the same things, and they corroborated each other.
There were, as I recall, several attempts on Mr. Carr's life after he reported this to the authorities.
Well, I know of one, and it was documented, and Henry Hurt wrote a book, Reasonable Doubt, years later, where he traced down a lot of that. And yes, he did. and a very good man. I interviewed him for a good hour or so and got him on tape, and as well as Roger Craig and others.
I should point out, by the way, that Gary Shaw co-wrote JFK, The Conspiracy of Silence with Dr. Charles Crenshaw, one of the doctors who attended JFK at Parkland Hospital. That was a #1 bestseller on the New York Times list for paperbacks. He is also acted as a consultant for Oliver Stone's epic movie, JFK. Now I want to bring in his colleague, Brian Edwards. Brian Edwards began researching the Kennedy assassination in 1969. He has also interviewed many of the Dealey Plaza eyewitnesses, as well as officers from the Dallas Police Department, the Dallas County Sheriff's Office, Secret Service agents, Parkland doctors, and several of the medical personnel from the Bethesda Naval Medical Center. It's interesting to me, of course, that in the recent documentary from Paramount Films, the doctors who attended JFK said that they all saw wounds consistent with being shot from the front and the back, and they were threatened and warned by Secret Service and FBI agents that they were never to discuss this. They felt comfortable discussing it only now, decades later. Brian Edwards, thank you for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show.
Oh, thank you, Roger, for having us on. I appreciate it.
All right, Tyler, I'm going to ask you to take the chair here for a moment and introduce the topic of Roscoe White. This is something I was unaware of, and I'm pretty knowledgeable about the Kennedy assassination, having written a New York Times bestseller on it, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ. But having studied the published literature, I think you have found an important missing piece of this puzzle. Tyler? It looks like we may have.
I'm sorry, I was going to say it's. Yep,
there you go.
Well, it's certainly. I mean, the testimony or the evidence that's come out is totally. I mean, it's just amazing that it was so obvious in 1963 to people who understood the real politics behind it all. But you know, we've got great guests coming up, and Doug Horn was excellent. I tell you, Roger, this story that the Stone's owners and Stone viewers and listeners are going to hear is amazing. And I'll let you introduce the guests.
All right. So, Gary, you want to take the first shot at telling us who Roscoe White was and what he has come forward to say?
Okay.
Or I should say his relatives have come forward to say?
Right. Roger, back in around 1990, along in that period of time, we had opened a center in Dallas, a center that was going to give basically our knowledge of the truth about the assassination in competition to the Sixth Floor Museum, which had opened about that time. It was during that time that a young man came to see us, and he's Ricky White. His father was Roscoe White, Roscoe Rock White. And he told us a story that just blew us away. And then subsequent artifacts and material that have come forward that his father left him to find confirm just exactly that. It's a story about a Marine who was from Paris, Texas, went into the Marine Corps, went across the seas to the Far East on the same ship that Lee Harvey Oswald went on. Then came back, and after he was, again, he like Oswald, he was given a hardship discharge, and came to Dallas and went to work for the Dallas Police Department in October of 1963. His wife went to work for Jack Ruby in September of 1963. And a couple of weeks later, Lee Harvey Oswald gets a job at the Texas School Book Depository in 1963. And they all come together in a unit that just blew us away. And Roscoe White left a diary, other artifacts that documented and told the story of his participation in the assassination of President Kennedy. This was a man that was a sharpshooter of the best kind in the Marine Corps, top notch. And he, with two other men that were on his team, his code name was Amanda, and the other two men's code name were Lebanon and Saul. And Roscoe fired the fatal shot from the picket fence there in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963. So it's quite a story, and it's quite well documented with material that you can find in our book, Admitted Assassin, which came out just last year, and tells the complete story and publishes pictures of the artifacts that he left behind for his son to find and to make public. This was a remorseful dad who left his son the material to tell the story, and it's quite a tragic story, but it's also what we believe to be a true story about what really happened in Dealey Plaza in Dallas in 1963. That, in a nutshell, is how this all came about.
So what reason do we have to believe that Ricky White is telling us the truth?
Well, his father left a diary, which he actually told the story of what happened on November 22nd, 1963, how he fired the fatal headshot, and his going to work for the Dallas Police Department. One of the people who signed off on him to get that job was a Office of Naval Intelligence man by the name of Mason Langford. And Mason Langford played a role with the Secret Service and the babysitting, you might say, of Marina Oswald after the assassination. So it's quite a story, but he left that, and he left his actual orders on. His orders were on paper, and he hid those away, put them put them away in a manner that would preserve them, so that Ricky could have something. And so there were three cables designating his orders for that period of time. There's a multitude of evidence that he left behind for his son to find and follow up on this whole story.
All right, we're going to be right back with Gary Shaw and Brian Edwards. I want to ask Brian to further elucidate the Roscoe White story for us, but he just told us, Gary just told us about naval intelligence cables containing the orders, and it is believed that Roscoe White also is the man who killed Officer J.D. Tippit, often blamed as on Lee Harvey Oswald as further proof that Oswald killed Kennedy. You're listening to The Roger Stone Show. You can hear us at WABCRadio.com worldwide. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is The Roger Stone Show.
Shopping is hard, right? But I found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And he sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's so easy. Make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org, number 3030. Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back, folks. You're tuned in for our 2-hour special on the assassination of our 35th president, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, on November 22nd, 1963. It always disturbed me, of course, the very well-known photo of President Lyndon Johnson taking the oath of office on Air Force One, simply because by law, as soon as the president is declared dead, the vice president becomes president, and therefore the oath of office is completely unnecessary. We know that LBJ called Attorney General Robert Kennedy, who of course was in shock over the murder of his brother, to ask him to look up the oath that was twisting the knife into Robert Kennedy, who the two men, of course, hated each other. RFK blamed Lyndon Johnson for the break-in at John F. Kennedy's doctor's office prior to the 1960 Democrat Convention, and the leak of Kennedy's medical records that indicated that the candidate, the senator from Massachusetts, had Addison's disease. Kennedy's doctor released a letter denying that Kennedy had Addison's disease. Of course, it was later proved in his autopsy that he did indeed suffer from that adrenal affliction, Addison's disease. And it's also interesting in that if you watch that succession of photos, note the broad grin on Lady Bird Johnson's face. And then Lyndon Johnson actually exchanges a wink with Congressman Albert Thomas, a segregationist Democrat congressman from Texas, a crony of LBJ. We're talking to Gary Shaw and Brian Edwards, as well as Tyler Nixon. I've now read the Chicago Tribune story about Roscoe White, as well as a Texas Monthly magazine. This seems to be groundbreaking information. Tyler, what do you make of it?
Well, I find it astonishing when I saw it. I had heard of Roscoe White, but I didn't realize the type of evidence that was involved that had been found by Ricky White. And so there's two aspects that I wanted Gary and Brian to get into, in the time we have, one is the fact of the diary's disappearance, I'll let Gary or Brian tell that story. And then, of course, the cables that were subsequently found that reinforce even further everything that he has said, Ricky White has said about what he found and what the contents of his father's, the remains, his physical or his material stuff he left behind after his rather mysterious death also, which they can address as well. But I mean, this to me, and they can again explain, to me it's conclusive. Unless you believe that a hoax this elaborate could be hatched by someone who's just a regular working guy from Texas. But Brian, Gary, take it away.
Brian, let's go to you.
Well, Roger, thanks for the great analysis. It's probably one of the best we've had in a long time of the story. if I could just address the question you asked about why should we believe Ricky White, and you didn't get into my complete background, but I spent 22 years as a law enforcement officer here in Kansas, and 7 years after I retired, I went into 7 years as a private investigator. And during that time, I've interviewed over, 200 or so people, from suspects and witnesses and all that. I've interviewed all the many witnesses in Dealey Plaza. I can tell you without any reservations at all that my very first encounter with Ricky White it was in 2018, and there's no doubt in my mind that the man is telling the story. He simply is, telling us, this is what I found. This is what my dad left for me. I'm not interpreting anything. I'm just telling you what I have. And the story is too complex. The artifacts are too genuine for him to have been able to manufacture this. It would take years to figure out how to make it viable and believable that somebody would ever find these and believe his story. Well, there's no doubt in our minds, and we wouldn't have put our names on it if we didn't believe him 150%. I mean, the guy is one of the quotes that one of the newspaper people did about after an interview with Ricky said, Ricky White could no more explain the origin of the universe than he could explain how these things came about. He found them. He was not looking for them. He just found them. And, he came to Gary and said, here's some material. What do I do with it? What do you think I should, what's the next step? And that's how Ricky contacted. Gary didn't go out looking for this guy. Ricky came to Gary and said, hey, this is the stuff that I have. What should I do with it? And what do I make of it? And so that's how the sincerity and the guy is not telling a lie. I mean, I don't think it's in his blood makeup that he could tell a lie. He's a very sincere young man that just simply is telling what he found. And that's how,
Brian, one of the things we can get into on the other side is what Roger raised at the very beginning of the show. He called it a puzzle. And there's so many pieces of the puzzle that seem to fit perfectly when you take the Roscoe White information, his profile, his activities into account based on what we found. So we can discuss that on the other side of the top of the hour. But Roger?
All right, we'll be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Network.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el Jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
PMS, pregnancy, menopause. Being a woman is a lot. Ollie supports you and yours with expert solutions for every age and life stage. They just launched 2 new products exclusively at Walmart. Period Hero combats bloat, mood swings, and more during PMS. And Balance Perimeno to support hormonal balance, mood, and metabolism during perimenopause. Grab yours at Ollie.com. Ollie! These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code listen50. T's and C's apply.
This episode is brought to you by Hulu, presenting Paradise. Paradise is Hulu's critically acclaimed addictive drama series, starring Sterling K. Brown, Julianne Nicholson, and James Marsden. The Daily Beast calls Paradise your next TV obsession, and the New York Times says it's exhilarating in all the right ways. Paradise is for your Emmy consideration in all categories, including Outstanding Drama Series. For more information, visit fyc.hulu.com.
Richard Nixon.
Well, I'm not a crook.
Ronald Reagan.
Tear down this wall.
George W. Bush.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you.
And Donald Trump.
And a friend of mine for a long time, he only likes politics. If you ask him about how are the Yankees doing, he has no interest. If you ask him almost anything, he likes politics, and he's a professional at the highest level. Roger Stone.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone. This is The Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
This is Roger Stone, and this is The Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC. The most powerful, influential, and entertaining AM radio station in the United States of America. I'm joined today to talk about the recent announcement by President Donald Trump that he will declassify and release all the documents pertaining to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy of New York, and Dr. Martin Luther King. We're joined right now by Tyler Nixon, attorney and longtime JFK researcher, J. Gary Shaw, and Brian Edwards. Shaw and Edwards have come forward with shocking information that a man named Roscoe White, a Dallas police officer and a veteran, is most likely, based on his own diary and documents and other materials found by his son Ricky White, the man who shot from the so-called picket fence along the grassy knoll. Gentlemen, welcome to the Roger Stone Show here at 77 WABC. Tyler, you want to summarize the shocking information that these two gentlemen have brought us today?
Sure, and they can certainly fill in the details, and I'll say it because for me it was I just experienced it for the first time last year in detail, listening to basically Ricky spoke as well as Brian gave the sort of the more detailed summary. But what it comes down to is, and I served in the Army infantry, so anybody who's been in the military knows that certain things don't change over a span of time. Things like how you receive orders, how you stow your gear, and the types of artifacts, let's just say, you would keep after service. And what Ricky has come forward with in the White family is, you look at it, just the pictures of what it was that was discovered in Roscoe White's, his footlocker, is just, it is so authentic on its face. And then when you get into the detail of it, you have his diary, which multiple witnesses looked at, where he details what happened on November 22nd, 1963, where he was, what his role was. And interestingly, each aspect of this information, the information contained in it, including the later information in the form of these cables, which are written sort of orders that would come from a military directorate or some sort of agency, in this case internally, sort of totally sensitive inside stuff. He was probably, as Brian noted, Roscoe was probably told to destroy those. But apparently he kept these cables, and they are as authentic as you can imagine. You would have to have served probably in the naval intelligence to understand how to write up one of these, to sound the way the three cables that were found after the disappearance of the diary, which I'll throw to Brian to talk about that, and then what people can see in the cables and why they're so authentic.
Brian?
Yeah, Tyler, the diary, Ricky said that he found the diary inside his father's footlocker in 1982 in Paris, Texas, and he didn't get around to reading it because he was raising two children and had a full-time job and didn't really sit down and open up that diary until about let's see here, my notes here. About 1989 is when he finally, or 87, I'm sorry, he started reading the diary at specific details, and he kind of skipped ahead to 1963 because everything up to that point had to do with Roscoe's military service and a lot of acronyms that Ricky didn't understand. And and finally got to the entry of 1963. And he said on that page and a half, he says, I read that so many times it burned a hole in my brain. He detailed in specifics what he was doing the day of the assassination of President Kennedy, that he was behind the picket fence, and he mentioned the type of weapon he had and what he did after the shots were fired and who was with him on his team, and named him. Gary has already named him, the two men who were with him in different locations. And then later, that same day, after he accomplished what he was supposed to do, one of the cables said, your assignment is to eliminate a national security threat to worldwide peace. And, I can't think of anybody else who would fit that bill except the President of the United States. So that clearly is telling the receiver of that particular cable, your assignment is to eliminate Kennedy. And so Roscoe did what he was assigned to do, and then proceeded to, we believe, and certainly in the diary, it supports the fact that he and Officer Tippit got into an altercation about what to do with Lee Oswald. And according to the diary, Roscoe, and this is his words, took out an officer at 10th and Patton. Now, unless another officer was at 10th and Patton that day, it had to be referring to Tippit. So, not only did Roscoe implicate himself in the murder of President Kennedy, but he also, in his own hand, wrote that he had killed Officer Tippit. So this is not just a lone nut scenario. This is a complex scenario where multiple entities are involved. And so the three cables have been analyzed by Gary had them analyzed by a former CIA operative who was also head of station in Angola or someplace in Africa, if I remember right. And he said these are authentic. He says, I've seen the similar format. So we know that those cables are authentic, and basically gave him his orders. And then Roscoe decided that at some time in his life that he didn't want to be a part of this anymore. And I think that's what got him killed.
Gary, your thoughts?
Well, what got him killed was he was offered other assignments, it appears, and he rejected those and was very remorseful of the fact that he had killed. He told his pastor when he became remorseful that he had taken lives on both foreign and domestic soil. So he was one that was utilized by whoever his bosses were, and I have an idea. But it's a situation. I wish you could have seen the FBI's reaction to all of this. One of the things they did before they ever knew anything about what Ricky White had, they heard about it and heard about the diary and began to surveil him. And for about 3 days before they finally approached him, they were clandestinely surveilling he and his wife every day for those 3 days. When they came to him, they threatened him with made him read out of the book that he could face federal prison time or a fine if he withheld information from him. Took him down to headquarters and grilled him for at least 3 or 4 hours. Made copies of the diary and made copies of keys to a safe deposit box in which Roscoe had put about $250,000 in. That eventually disappeared after the FBI learned about it. And it's a case, Tyler, that it's just amazing. And the thing about it is, in writing, Roscoe White admitted his participation in the assassination of President Kennedy, hence the name of the book, Admitted Assassin. And in more than one place, he spelled it out. And it's a story that just amazed us and obviously made the FBI very, very mad, and they've lied about it ever since. Of course, you should suspect that or expect that from that agency when it comes to the assassination of President Kennedy. So there's so much to it that it's impossible to go into it in great detail in such a short time. But it's all written out, and people can see photographs of the documentation that his father left behind, and we believe it's very, very important. And I hope that when the files are finally released, we'll get some. We did a Freedom of Information request from the FBI, and they sent us sanitized or redacted copies of their investigation into all of this. And
well, I would say for those who aren't who are novices to the JFK assassination investigation, Gary Shaw is a titan. He's been steeped in the community. He's been researching it almost since the event happened. And so, you're hearing this is coming from not to appeal to authority, but a very authoritative and knowledgeable source who would have vetted this with a great degree of meticulousness. So you're not, when you go pick up your copy of Admitted Assassin, you're going to be blown away by what you see. And it's almost like a Rosetta Stone to the assassination, because it answers so many questions. And maybe we can close out talking a little bit about the pictures that were found amongst the belongings in the footlocker, and which again, these were photographed all together at the time they were found, or roughly thereabouts. So there's no question about the authenticity of them existing, in contemporaneously with each other. This wasn't assembled. But I'll let maybe Brian or Gary, whichever you want, talk about how this affected other photographic evidence in the case, particularly the famous Oswald backyard photo used to very much implicate Lee Harvey Oswald falsely.
Right.
Go ahead, Brian.
In the footlocker, Ricky had discovered inadvertently, by happenstance, found his father's footlocker during his grandfather's funeral, and all the material in there was related to his father. There's letters from home, letters from while he was overseas, military records, photographs, memorabilia that he had saved for posterity, for his own, I guess, for himself or his son or his family. But one of the things that was in that collection of material was a backyard photograph of Lee Oswald that had never been seen before. It was the third backyard photograph. It was a print from the original negative that the Warren Commission had no knowledge about. And so Ricky remembers having those photographs were in a binder that his father had kept in a closet. And whenever Ricky told us kind of covertly that whenever Mom and Dad were gone, his friends would come over and he'd pull that binder out and show these pictures of from the Dallas Police Department's investigation. I mean, these were, original prints from the original negative. So of the property that was seized at the rooming house,
and this included
autopsy photographs of Oswald. These things that nobody else had, and he had access to those things. But that third backyard photograph was very important because, like I said, nobody had ever seen that before.
All right, gentlemen, I'm
there's
afraid
also,
Brian
real
and Gary,
quick,
we're going to have to leave it there. Tell folks where they can get your great book, and then Tyler Nixon's going to stick with us for the next segment.
Okay, the book The Admitted Assassin is available through the publisher Peniel Unlimited. It's PENIEL Unlimited, or you can buy it at Amazon. It's available both places. In
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble has it, yes. There are numerous bookstores that are carrying it, but if you don't have it at your local bookstore, you can directly, buy it directly from our publisher, Peniel Unlimited.
All right. J. Gary Shaw, Brian Edwards, we have to leave it there and go to a commercial break. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this special regarding the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And folks, I urge you to get their book. It is absolutely compelling. Gentlemen, God bless you. And to our listeners, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
When it comes to Father's Day, some things never change. Dads want steak. And the experts at Omaha Steaks are making it easy for you to deliver uncompromising quality with gifts that are sure to make his day. Plus, get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD when you shop omahasteaks.com today. We know being your dad means he already has everything he could want. But just picture the look on his face when he sees those extra-aged USDA-certified tender steaks, juicy air-chilled chicken, beefy burgers, and more. With carefully curated gift packages from America's original butcher, it's never been easier to show everyone why you're dad's favorite. And every bite is 100% guaranteed to bring a thrill to the king of the grill. Shop now at omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with code THANKSDAD. But don't wait. Father's Day is June 15th. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details.